are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. I am your host, Colin Austin, and my co-host is Michael Dees. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Not bad for a guy with a bum leg.
I know, man. You guys, I was in the mountains playing capture the flag with my kids, and I really messed up my knee, and it's
He's hobbling around like an old man.
Intense. Did you win? Did you capture the flag?
You know what? My teammates, which were my 7-year-old and I want to say 7-year-old friend, Emma, Maddox and Emma, they were in the prison, the jail, which was the tree, and I made the jump, tagged the tree, got them out of the jail, but wrecked my knee in the process. Anyway, you know, it's part of it.
I told you last time after the trampoline, you need to take it easy. Yeah, so karma's catching up with you, buddy.
I know, man. Feeling that old age, you know?
Right on.
So,
well, I know you're excited to get into this episode.
Dude, I can't wait.
We've been talking about this for a while,
Let's roll it.
Before we do, let's introduce some sponsors. Gainesville Harley Davidson. Colin, did you know that Gainesville Harley Davidson does rentals?
Yeah, I mean, I do now.
Because we talked about that, which is still really, really cool. I'm still juiced for us to do that sometime, so I'm waiting for you to ask me out on a motorcycle date. But for you listeners, if you have a motorcycle license and want to experience and feel the iconic rumble of Harley Davidson yourself, Gainesville Harley has a rental fleet that is ready for you. You can take 2 or 3 wheels for a spin anywhere for a day or up to a week. Check them out at 4125 Northwest 97th Boulevard or give them a call at 352-331-6363.
Yeah, man. That'd be so much fun.
It would be fun.
We gotta do
Before
that.
things get super busy, I think me and you need to go for motorcycle.
That'd be a blast. You guys, we also want to thank Jorge and the crew over at Gainesville Turnover Specialist, which is brought to you by the one, the only, the best restoration, the masters of disaster, baby. You guys, if you own an apartment complex or any other type of rental, with one call, let me repeat, with one call, the Gainesville Turnover Specialist will be able to go in and make the apartment look brand new again. There's no need to call somebody to clean the carpet. There's no need to call somebody to go in and fix the hole in the wall. You guys, the Gainesville Turnover Specialist can do all of it. Like, they are your one-stop shop. So just call Jorge and the crew over at Gainesville Turnover Specialist. Again, brought to you by the best restoration. You can find them at 352, or you can call them at 352-363-6622. Again, that's 352-363-6622, or check out their website at yourgts.com. So yeah. So thank you, sponsors. And you guys, also really quick before we get into this episode, I wanted to give a really mad shout out to our friends over at the Business Report. You guys, I don't know how many of you noticed. If you haven't noticed, go check them out. These guys have been writing our blogs for the podcast. They're on our website. They've been doing write-ups on the stories of our podcast guests and sharing these on the Gainesville Business Report. It's been a really, really cool collaboration. We're so blessed to have other community partners like the Business Report who are helping us, get this message, get this mission out there, and really highlight what makes Gainesville so special, which is you guys, all of the awesome business owners that are out there just contributing to Gainesville. So the Business Report of North Central Florida is your source for business news in Alachua County. Get your business news at GainesvilleBizReport.com. That's GainesvilleBiz, B-I-Z, report.com. And Scott, April, team over there, thank you guys so much for your contribution. And now, let's get into the show. I am so excited, you guys, because today on the show, we have Amir Rubin, founder and formerly CEO of Paracosm, recently acquired by Occipital, a company that builds devices to 3D map the world. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Occipital? Yeah. Man, that's like a mouthful. I feel like I did pretty good, though. Amir, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see you.
Excited to be here. Yeah.
So,
great.
Dude, we just love to dive right in. We want to throw it back to your story, kind of hear your startup story, your Gainesville life, and how you got to where you are right now.
Oh,
so, yeah, man. So share it with us, please.
Wow. All right.
It's like the best open-ended question ever. Yeah, just tell us everything.
Everything.
Go.
go. All right. Well, yeah. Hey, everyone. So, I grew up in South Florida, and I came to Gainesville for engineering degree at UF, and I, really loved Gainesville. I loved the vibe here, and also I graduated like 2003, 2004, and as a computer engineer right now, it's like I'd say it's one of the hot careers out there. Everyone's like, learn to code. Everyone's hiring. There's not enough programmers. But in 2003, 2004, it was the death of the software and computer engineering industry. No one remembers that era, but it was close to impossible to get a job in any sort of computer IT related field. The only options were like, government, defense contractors. Everyone was saying the American software industry is over after the first .com crash, and there'll never be an American software industry. Everyone thought it would be outsourced overseas. And so, there was no job prospects. Out of school, at the career fair, there was just, at the UF, there's absolutely nothing. And coincidental with that, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my very lovely wife, had just been accepted to University of Florida veterinary school. And so I also needed an excuse to be in Gainesville for a few more years. And I thought to myself, okay, well, how, there's no job market for computer engineers or software developers. There's, I need an excuse to stay around town for a few years. Why don't I start a company with some friends? And we did that. And, we had no idea what we were doing, but somehow the company lasted a long time. And that was my first company. It was called Peoria Robotics. And, we were building drones and stuff back in, 2005, 6, 2007. But eventually I left my own startup, and I helped a new startup in town get off the ground. It's one called Shadow Health. And I spent a year or two with Shadow Health getting them, I was their first employee, and we built version 1 of their product. And now Shadow Health has a pretty big team now, selling to nursing and medical, dental students all over the country. They're doing great. And then bringing me to today is, one night in like 2012, I just woke up and just the middle of the night, and I just had this idea to, what if I could virtually revisit all the cool places I've ever been to in my life. There's like this new wave of virtual reality that's starting to pop up. What if I could recreate all the amazing castles and cathedrals and forts from when, my wife and I would like go on trips and traveling. And I was like, how can I build such a device to do that, to capture the world and share it? And that was the birth of Paracosm. I called up a bunch of friends here in town who are, super sharp group of people I knew from the Gainesville scene, and we started Paracosm January 1st, 2013. Or maybe it was January 3rd, 2013, but we've been, I guess that's just about seven years now, and we finally started figuring out how to actually build, how to actually do this. Took a while.
That's so many questions.
Yeah.
like what of having that vision, or just having that idea spark, and then actually having the guts to put the pieces together to execute it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just dude. And not only that, so let's take a huge step back. When did you arrive here? Because you said you graduated 03, 04?
Yeah. So I got to Gainesville, I think, either 98 or 99 as a freshman at UF. Yeah.
So now you've been here over 20 years.
Yeah, crazy.
Gainesville.
Time flies.
Doesn't that blow your mind? Because that's when I got here in 2002. When did you get here?
I got here in 2004.
Okay,
Wow.
so like, I mean, so Gainesville's changed so much.
Yeah,
Right? And you
geez.
talk about the landscape, the entrepreneurial landscape for sure. Like, think about what it was like back in 2004.
Yeah, it did not exist. Really.
Exactly. Which is crazy to
It's crazy.
see.
Yeah, there's like a few hints. There was like a few like threadbare things going on in like 2004 or 5. Like there was a video game studio that actually did launch a game and actually ended up becoming now like the top video game in the world is here out of Gainesville, out of one of the people from that studio. And there was a group of guys that started Groove Shark, which revolutionized the music industry. So it was an odd time in like 2005 and 6 where there was really nothing, but the beginning threads of what has become the Gainesville scene the people were starting to plant the seeds back then, I'd say.
Yeah, we were unloading boxes of scooters. I was just thinking of us unloading truckloads
riding little pocket bikes.
Pocket bikes. Dude, it's such a strange time for sure. I mean, it just blows your mind. Like, it blows my mind looking back.
It was
to
a
this
weird
time.
thing at that time too to start a company. Like, everyone thought it was weird. Like,
right.
My parents were like, well, one day you'll get a job. And I was like, well, maybe, but
we create a job.
Yeah, I'll create the job. I mean, there's no jobs in computer engineering or software development anyway. Like, might as well create our own. And this was even before, like, I remember we went on Google and we're like, how to start a company, and like, and there's nothing out there. Like, Y Combinator didn't even exist yet when we started in 2003, 2004 when we started Peoria, and so it was just trying to figure it out ourselves, how the hell to do this. Yeah.
Dude, was it actually Google that you used to search that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the Google there wasn't a lot of content, didn't work that great back then.
Just trying to think of all the search engines that
it had just gone public. So I was like,
it's
Google
so
just
funny.
IPO'd. They must know what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, dude.
And one of the Google founders
just
from Gainesville too.
Dude, it's so funny because I'm like thinking back to that time, and you're absolutely right. There were no resources, there were no incubators, accelerators.
And it was actually,
I talk about that all the time.
What there was is, and it's still around, is like there was like a group of retired people, like retired accountants and like office managers who would volunteer their time. So like everyone told us, oh, go talk to these guys. So we talked to all these like old guys who used to be accountants and like office managers at like local businesses, and they're really nice and really helpful, but the advice an accountant from like 20 years ago it has actually steers you the wrong direction actually, and so there's just not much to go on. It's like pretty grasping at straws, and it takes a while to figure it out.
You're just not, like, if you started a company in like 2004 or whatever, like in those early like, you were nuts. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you were just nuts. And that, like now, 2020, it's like, oh, cool, man, like another startup.
Do it.
Like, everybody's starting companies.
Yeah.
Like, it's like so natural.
Do it. Yeah.
I don't know. It's super interesting. So so you actually, you got some friends together? 2013.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what these conversations like? Hey, buddy, like, I want to start a business. 2013. This is my idea. Quit your job.
Quit your job. Let's do this. And they're like, how's this business gonna make money? Like, we're gonna be like 3D mapping and capturing like places in the world, like castles. How's that gonna make money? I was like, I don't know, but we can figure all that out later. And I was like, all right. And then they're like, how are we gonna do this? I was like, I don't exactly know either, but I have like, my feeling is we can use a combination of like cameras and this new fangled Microsoft Kinect camera, and we're gonna process the camera images. We're gonna use a Microsoft Kinect, and we're gonna mash all the data together, and it's gonna work. And they're like, well, how are we gonna pay for it? And I was like, I have a little bit of money saved up. I'll just pay for it out of the out of my savings, and we'll have it figured out in just a few months, no problem. And I ran out of all my money in 2 or 3 months. That didn't last very long. And then
do you mind telling us how much money that was?
it was about it was around $200,000.
You had $200,000.
Yeah, from my previous startup. Yeah.
And you went through it in 3 months.
Not 3 months. It was more like 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. 200 grand, 6 months,
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
Come on,
Just
friends.
Burned
we'll do
right
this.
through. Yeah. So I'd made a few bucks from my previous, and in between startups, I did some consulting that paid the bills. So I had, cost of living Gainesville low, and I was like, well, I got all this cash,
which is a huge benefit that everybody needs to understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Cost of living is super low. Okay.
And so I and again, everyone's like, well, you should put that money in the stock market. You should put it in a 401k. And I was like, some of it was in a 401k, and I was like, screw that. And so I cashed out the 401k, and I pulled all the money into a company bank account. And then after that burned out, again, it's like the community support here, one of the local guys in town, Ken McGurn, who's one of our early investors, introduced me to a really great guy, a philanthropist who does a lot of scholarship work at UF, and he was a really successful entrepreneur out of South Florida. And so Ken brought this guy to our office, and he saw what we were doing, and he's like, I have no idea how you're going to make money, but you have a great team, and this is really cool tech. And he cut an angel investment check to us after just meeting us for a day in our office. So he cut us a check for a few, $100,000. And then, we started getting a little momentum going. We put out I started talking to people out in one of my favorite stories is I started calling up universities that were doing similar research, and not just UF, but there was other universities doing really relevant research. So I started talking to them about what we're doing, and one of the researchers I was talking to had just got a job at Google. And then after a few months at Google, he called me and he's like, yeah, you gotta talk to my team here at Google. And I called them up, and they're like, yeah, next time, what you're doing sounds interesting. Next time you're in Mountain View, come by, visit us. We should talk. And I was like, yeah, I'll let you know next time I'm in Mountain View. And so this is
book the plane ticket.
Yeah. So immediately I hung up the phone, found the cheapest plane ticket I could. It was in 3 weeks from there. And so 3 weeks later I called him. I was like, hey man, the
guy to be coming through town.
Yeah, I'm in. I happen to be in Mountain View tomorrow. Are you gonna be around? And he's like, oh yeah, come on by. So I actually did get on the plane, and that went on to be a now defunct, but at the time much hyped project called Google Project Tango, which was a 3D mapping smartphone. And so we met with the team doing the Google Tango team, many of whom I'm still in touch with even now, 6 something years later. And we, they paid us as a few bucks to help them develop their some software for their Google Tango phone. And then in early 2014, there's a big launch video and fanfare for the Google Tango phone. And, I never feel bad about shipping a product late, because in early 2014, the whole Tango launch video happened, and the product actually didn't come to market until 2 or 3 years later even. So it even took Google a long time. But then off the hype of that launch video, at this point, we had angel investment, we had worked with Google, and so we had all this momentum behind us. And then another really awesome person here in town, Phoebe Cade, actually, introduced me, because everyone in Gainesville, another big advantage of Gainesville, everyone's kind of knows each other.
Yeah.
You just kind of know everyone in Gainesville. It's a weird, wonderful thing. So she's just like, oh, you got to talk to, this person I know. And so she introduced me to someone, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm an investor, but I'd love to invest, but talk to my friend in Boston and first, let's see what he says. And his friend in Boston was one of the top venture capitalists in Boston. And so I hopped on a 10-minute Skype call with this guy in Boston. He's like, oh, next time you're in next time you're in Boston or New York, he's like, he's like, actually, I'm going to be in Manhattan next week, Wednesday. I have an hour slot. So if you happen to be in Manhattan, like, whatever, I'll have lunch with you.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm going to be in Manhattan.
And so, Gainesville, 5 a.m. flight. I was in Manhattan. I was at the lunch place right in time for lunch. And I had lunch with the guy, and, they cut a few $1 million check. And it was just like
a few $1 million check.
Yeah. And so that's kind of how we got our start. And they asked me to move to Boston. So my wife and I moved to Boston for, like 2014, 15. And then we worked with iRobot. They're based in Boston. They actually invested in our company as well. And, we started getting all sorts of good action on the front. So it's kind of a lot going on. Yeah.
So that's not part of the acquisition?
No. So what happened is,
these were just angel investors.
This was angel investor. Yeah,
we're on board.
Yeah, and then there was kind of starting in 2016ish era, investors started to have a venture capital goes through. And if anyone doesn't know, venture capitalists are a specific type. Class of investor that invests in high-risk technology startups, and they go through trends just like any industry. So the trend in 2014 era, when we got our first tranche of money, the 2012, 2014 kind of mindset was like, hey, if it's a cool tech, let's cut a check. In 2016-ish era, which was when I was looking for our next check, because by this time the team has grown, we need a new check. They started to ask, where's your revenue? And we want to see business models and revenue. And it's like, wait, what is that? Where did this come from? This is a new trend. And even now in 2020, it's even a new trend, which is we don't care about revenue. Like, we want profitability. Where's your margins? Are you sustainable business? Right. So
you think that's just because there were so many overvaluated startups with great ideas but low execution, or what do you think?
I think there's a lot of factors that play into it. I think that's part of it. I think some of it is just technology trends. The 2012 to 2014 era was kind of the birth of a lot of new technologies. So people were getting their money into these really new ideas of now everyone knows about machine learning or artificial intelligence, and someone's heard of it. It's what powers everything from Netflix and YouTube recommendation algorithms to some of the fancy Snapchat filters that detect your face, things like that. So there's this new the machine learning boom started in 2012, 13, and there's a lot of other technologies, cryptocurrency and early virtual reality, augmented reality. So there were so many new ideas happening, and the birth of self-driving cars, that people were just trying to pump money into these new ideas. And as the ideas kind of matured, they wanted to start to see money come out of it. And now that a lot of these super hyper-funded early companies, they either got acquired or flamed out. So now investors don't want to see all these $100 million investments flame out anymore. So they want to see some sort of business model these days, which at least for certain types of startups. So yeah, it's just a trend. It's all these waves of VC thinking. I'm sure once the new technologies come out, they'll go back to just saying, hey, this is a cool technology out of a cutting edge research lab. We'll go back to just funding hypotheticals again. But more mature technology based ideas, they want to see dollars these days.
So the guy in Manhattan, right? So,
yeah.
So you got a ticket, you go up there.
Yeah.
And meet him. I mean, you made it sound like had a meeting.
Yeah,
maybe how long was this meeting? Struck you a check. They struck you a check for millions of dollars. You made that sound super easy.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, was it that easy?
Well, I'm romanticizing a little bit, I think, but it's 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 like a whole dog and pony show. Like I flew out to Vegas and pitched, the Zappos guy, Tony Shea, and his fund actually, joined in on the round, put in some cash. I flew back to Boston, met with iRobot again, and I still have a good relationship with a lot of those people there. They put in some cash. I flew back down to Florida, met with New World Angels out of Tampa and South Florida. They put in some cash. I went back to New York and met with some great VC funds in New York. UF introduced me to a venture capitalist out of Philadelphia, and that works with the University of Florida technology licensing group. And so you kind of cobble together like one, investors like to, if one investor shows commitment, they're called your lead investor, and then everyone will kind of throw into the pot if there's someone anchoring it. Yeah. So like if we raised like around $4 million, so like the first investor puts in like $1 million, and then you cobble together like $500,000 checks from a bunch of people, and you end up with $4 or $5 million that way.
Were you familiar with the art of pitching at that time? Was that like a completely new,
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and even now, if I were to pitch again, I would be rusty. Like pitching, you got to be. It's just like any skill. Like even if I was really good at it back then, since I haven't pitched in a long time, I would be really rusty now. So you have to, it's like you got to get really good at it. And so a lot of people here in town, there used to be a group called like the Florida Institute Commercialization, like Research Institute, like Stephanie George and Jamie Grooms was the head of it. And like they did spent a lot of time coaching me, as they would any, Florida company, but they were really great with me, and they spent a lot of time coaching me. So I was able to take their advice and then just practice it. And one of the tips I learned is like set up a lot of investor meetings, like dozens of meetings, and the ones you don't really care about, do those first to like grind out to have all your mistakes in the low stakes meetings. And I did. I had dozens and dozens of pitch meetings preceding this where I failed miserably, and some of them I actually really didn't want to, but you could tell when you're failing a pitch, and I was just bonking. So I would just, okay, where did I go wrong? Okay, I need to tighten up that answer. Oh, I need to fix this part of our business. And so by the time you're ready for the real pitches, it's like, okay, everything's tuned up, and every question that's going to be asked of you. You have the story, like, you got to craft a story that unfolds in the investor's mind. Like you want them to feel smart listening to your story. Like lead them down the path that when the light bulb goes off, it's like, whoa, you mean if we 3Dify the world, we can enable this entirely new class of technology that interacts, like all this digital technology will understand the real world, and robots can navigate the real world, and like digital overlays, like we now know can connect, everything connects if you have a digital map of the real world. And then when that light bulb goes off and they see our demo, they're like, and you're the solution to this is going to be huge, and they get excited when that light bulb goes off, and that's when they write you a check. And
love it.
Yeah, and I remember one time, one of my favorite investors, I happened to be in New York a different time, and one of my Boston investor was like, oh, there's a New York investor who's interested in meeting with you. He'll get in touch with you. So I'm in my hotel room, and I remember at like 1:30 a.m. my phone buzzes with a text message from this investor like, hey, I hear you're in town. I have a breakfast available tomorrow morning. And I was like, well, my flight out of JFK leaves at 10 a.m. So could we do like a 7 a.m. breakfast? And he's like, sure. So like I pre-packed my bags, showed up to the 7 a.m. breakfast, and like nailed the pitch. And then like at like 8:30, I'm like, all right, I gotta go catch my flight. And there's like all this traffic on whatever that highway is, and like I get to the airport, and like I just sprinted across JFK airport and like got onto the flight as they closed the door. I was like dying out of breath. And I was like, I hope that was worth it. And yeah, he wrote the check too. So
Dang.
yeah, that's just how you just got to chase the money. And, there's a whole science to it. Like I would speak at conferences and some of these conferences are really great, and they actually have speaking coaches. So they would spend a lot of time training me how to speak and answer questions effectively. And, some of the people here at UF introduced me to folks at NVIDIA. One of the NVIDIA co-founders, a UF engineering grad. And so, I had lunch with him in San Jose, and he's like, no, we're not going to invest in you, but we'll hook you up. So they gave me like a speaking slot at their premier conference, and then they had like a professional speaking coach spend like weeks with me preparing for it. That's cool. They put us on all their social media accounts, and they gave us all this promo. And so it's, there's a lot of, you start to get kind of trained up in the art of pitching, and you learn how to be shameless about it. You just can't be shy or embarrassed about what you got to pitch.
So tell us about when the acquisition happened, like what that process was like, when that happened, and then I'll shut up and let Mike ask some questions, because I'm
buckled in. I'm just sitting
I know,
here.
man. I keep like writing down question after question after question. I'm like, oh, we're gonna be in for a 6-hour podcast if I keep doing that. But,
no, it's
but so tell us.
Yeah. So basically the two things that happened were as the tide shifted from kind of the mania of the 2012 to 2014 era into the 2015 kind of transition, as the mania of like, hey, we're doing all this augmented reality that's going to affect robots, which is why iRobot is interested. It's going to affect phones, which is why we work with Google, and like we virtual augmented reality are going to be built on 3D maps. And so we had all this like excitement and built up, and the investors are like at these board meetings that starting in 2015 and like heavy in 2016, they started asking, well, okay, it's the first time I got this question. What was your revenue this quarter? And I'm like, where did this question come from? I was like, what do you mean? Like, we're just building cool shit. And and I was like, didn't you see I gave all these cool talks at conferences, and all these people think what we're doing is so cool?
Like, what companies, what we're supposed to make money? What are you talking about?
And they're like, yeah, that's supposed to, and I was like, but we're just building tech. We're not building a product. And they're like, well, build a product and make money. And because we're not going to give you any more money unless you're making money. And I was like, oh, geez.
So that was like 15.
Yeah, like 15, 16. And so
okay.
I was like, okay. So we kind of slapped a product together, and we had a bunch of 3D mapping software. We had cameras, Microsoft Connect. We kind of slapped it all together and started, instead of going to these like kind of fun, high profile tech conferences, and like we started going to like industry, like 3D scanning industry conferences. And so we kind of changed, instead of like going to like the NVIDIA conference to talk about robots and this and that, we started going to like the 3D scanning conference for, scanning oil rigs and gas pipelines and construction sites and, survey stuff. And we're like, well, maybe we have a new method of 3D scanning, business stuff, and people will buy it. And they did. And so, but then they bought our system, which was like Microsoft Connect camera thing, and they went to use it, and like we only ever really used it like in our office and people's houses. They took it out into the real world, and the device failed completely. And so we had all these angry customers, and they weren't angry that they spent $5,000 on our system. They were angry it didn't work. And so I was like, oh, okay. So what we got to do is, we got to, they're not price sensitive, but they want they want something that's going to work, we have to build our own doodad, our own device with like real high powered sensors on it that can actually work on a construction site, that can actually work on an oil rig or whatever. And we looked into it, and nothing really existed. But then there's a new product on the market, like late 2015, that was like this new emerging technology to enable self-driving cars. So a product hit the market that was a laser system to, like, if you put it on a self-driving car, it'll avoid crashing. Like if you ever see Gainesville has like a little self-driving bus, you see like these little cylinder domes on it. Those are like laser systems to, like, they shoot out lasers, just like the laser clicker you get at like the Home Depot or whatever, and it tells you how far away stuff is. It shoots out hundreds of thousands of laser dots a second. And so I was like, let's see if we can use one of those as our 3D sensor. And we couldn't buy one, so we kind of unofficially borrowed one from a lab from UF, from one of the engineering labs. And
I love your terminology on stuff.
And we built a prototype with cameras and this self-driving car laser, and it worked really freaking well. And we showed it to our investor, and I was like, this is gonna be the mapping pod that really can map the world, and it's gonna be amazing, and we're gonna map everything. But the way we're gonna make our money is we're gonna sell this to like construction sites and factories and oil rigs who want to 3D map their stuff. And the investors were like, okay, well, go do that then. I'm like, well, here's the good news is, I just need another check to do it, and you have plenty of money, so write me another check. And so they're like, no, why don't you find someone else to write the check for you, and we'll support you if you find someone. And I was like, come on. So Occipital was like, well, we're a 3D scanning startup, and we have a lot of expertise. So I knew everyone in the industry knows each other, so I knew the founders of Occipital, and they're like, hey, we have a lot of expertise in building 3D hardware. We're not afraid of it the way investors are, because some investors don't like investing in hardware. They want to invest in software. So Occipital was like, no, let's launch this product. This is going to be awesome. And so I was like, oh, well, this is a cool option. And so instead of finding an investor, we'll merge into this other startup that's already building 3D sensing devices, and it'll be cool. And that was about 2.5 years ago.
Okay, and so I know that there was a huge piece that you said you and your wife had moved to Boston.
And then
but your company is here.
Yeah, we kept the team here in Gainesville. Okay. And then in 2016, I was like, when all this discussion with the investor was happening, I was like, well, I don't really need to be. I'm here for you, for the investors, and if you're kind of, not enthusiastic about a hardware product, then why am I paying Boston rent? I love Boston, but why am I paying Boston rent prices? I'll come back to Florida, and we'll build this new hardware product that I strongly believe in is going to be a really big product. And if our Boston investors aren't so excited by lasers and fancy camera systems, then why do I got to still be up here?
Okay. And so what year did this merger?
2016. And then the merger with Occipital happened 2017.
Okay. So 17. So 3 years later.
3 years later.
Where are you at now?
So we've shipped. So they've been really cool. We kept our team in Gainesville. Occipital has offices in Boulder, San Francisco. So we've been through a lot together with them as a company. There's been a lot of changes, but we finished the prototype. The team here in Gainesville worked like triple overtime. We finished this laser scanning prototype. We got it, the first 30 or 40 units we built in our own office, and like a lot of people didn't sleep for months while they built these in our office. And we're like, all right, let's see if this will actually, if people actually are interested in this. And we sold the first 30, 40 systems that we built out of the office. And in contrast to when we tried our first version, like, you know, hacky Microsoft Connect product 2 years prior, like this time it worked for people, and then they asked to buy more. And so we found a manufacturer. And
what does something like that cost?
The retail is $32,000.
Okay.
And so it's we're like, yeah, well, people are buying this. And you know, we've shipped, like, we have units, we've shipped a few hundred units, and like we have systems in like 3D scanning and mapping the forests of Japan, 3D scanning like construction sites in all over the US, 3D scanning historic sites in Europe, geographical surveys in like Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. We have systems in like France and London, oil rigs and like in Norway and all over. It's kind of crazy.
So with like the original investors and all that kind of stuff, I mean, have they received a return on all this investment when the merger happened, or is it still like in the process?
Still in process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're still waiting.
Yeah.
Anxiously.
Oh yeah.
Cool, man. This is neat. Mike, what do you got?
Maybe a little less anxiously if you're popping out $32,000 sales.
I'm sure they're like glad to see that, right?
Yeah, and so we're working it, like, and yeah, it's been a ride. It's been an adventure. Yeah, that's
sounds
for sure.
like it.
And
man.
then we were kind of like, for up until this year, like there was really just Paracosm, now functioning as a division of Occipital. And
how big is that division, real quick? Like, how many people you got?
We're currently like 15 people.
Okay.
And we're up until this year, there was really like just us and one other competitor, and then we gained a third competitor. So there's like a company out of London and Paracosm were the two companies doing this, and then like 2 years ago, a new competitor like popped up, and all great companies were friends, and so this whole new market is being pumped by like these three small startups creating this entire new category of 3D mapping, and now that we've kind of proved the market, like this year there's already like three new competitors like from well-funded companies like popping up, because they're starting to see like this new category of 3D mapping that we helped pioneer is kind of becoming an industry trend. And so we're a bit far afield from the lofty dreams of like scanning castles and mapping the world, but it's it's business use cases, I guess.
Yeah.
So when you have investors that are kind of keying in on wanting you to be profitable, you said that was one of the trends, and you've got you're pioneering a new to market technology. How do you even set a price on what margin? I mean, I'm not asking for specifics, but how do you even set a price on what you need to make the mapping?
I mean, it's always tricky.
So you're kind of like, why not 45,000?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You just
when you got the first sell at 32, were you like, damn, that was too easy?
Yeah, our competitors charge like double, so we probably should look into that. But
I love
it's
this.
it's tricky. Like what we really saw was what I really want to do. I've always wanted to do is have the hardware be really competitively priced, because we have all sorts of grand ambitions for software add-ons that we want to do. Like right now, this is a pod. It has the laser I discussed, the camera, battery, like little computer processor, all in a nice little 3D mapping pod. And you put it on a stick or a backpack, and and you go for a walk or a drive, and after you're done walking or driving through, some people map buildings, office buildings, army bases, city blocks, construction sites, forests. After you're done walking through your environment, you process the data, you download onto your computer, and you have your 3D file. It's like a 3D world. And, what I always wanted to say is, well, let's try to get our system as economical as possible, because the real value is the way people are using the data. They're using the data to manage their tree inventory in a forest. They're using their construction site scan to make sure the construction project is being done correctly and on schedule. They're using the data to measure the volume of dirt stockpiles, or to measure the topography of the geography of a flood zone or a landscape, and so or to do like a land survey. And I was like, we're just one step in a workflow. Like, I want to start making software solutions that go up the value chain, and I want to charge money for that software. So I kind of wanted to keep the price low as a way of like getting into the market and creating a new category, because before, like, the whole category of handheld 3D mapping systems, which I'd like to think like I said, we're one of the first 2 or 3 companies to do this. And now this year there's it's become an actual industry category. But, I was like, we first need to pioneer this new concept of like anyone can walk around a facility, 3D map it. Then they're going to ask the next question, what do I do with the data? So, we have all sorts of grand ambitions about building software to analyze the data, and that's where the real home run, I think, is.
Okay. That's so cool.
So what kind of team do you have to build around you? Like, do you consider yourself like a visionary? I mean, you talk about waking up with that idea, like, hey, I want to 3D map the world. Is it something where you like have to surround yourself with people that can go execute that, or what?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it. It's like, yeah, you kind of, that's exactly it. You like, the core technology is broadly would be considered like computer vision, and but that's like the core technology. But when you're building a product, like, we need to have, there's a little bit of like web development in our product. There's Windows app development. There's, the computer vision technology that actually does the 3D processing. There's electrical engineering. You have to manufacturing engineering, mechanical engineering. So yeah, you kind of assemble the Avengers assemble and get the team together, and somehow a product emerges. If everyone kind of cranks on their piece, and I used to be. The funny thing is, no one at Paracosm would ever believe this of me, but like, back when I was in school, like, I took a lot of software and product engineering classes. UF had a great product development program where they really taught how to build a product, and it really influenced me. And I used to be a stickler for like really good product development processes, and like how to run the process. There's actually there's an actual structured workflow how you build out a product with like requirements and engineering documentation. And I used to do that. Like, the first company I mentioned, when I started, we were building drones in 2004, and like we spent 6 years doing a really rigorous like product development. We had documentation, we had project management, we had planning, and we long story short, we in my opinion beautifully engineered and beautifully product processed our way to a product that not a single person bought. And so we spent 6 or 7 years at my first company right out of school doing everything the right way, and it didn't sell a single unit. And so I was like, I'm not gonna let that happen again. So at Paracosm, it was just kind of like, I instinctually know okay, we have all these pieces of the puzzle, like find the person I know who can kick ass at that, and like let's just hack together this prototype, and we're just gonna hack it together, and we're not gonna mess with any fancy documentation, and we're gonna build the first 30 in our lab, and we're gonna see if people care. And that's how we did it.
Okay, so with the first company, you're talking about Peoria?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounded like you created something awesome. Was it just that you didn't build out the sales team?
We had a fine sales team. It was
just too expensive.
Just the market itself was not
there yet.
So it was building drones like 10 years too early. And then when the market did arrive, DJI is just owning the market right now from China. Like no one can compete with them on cost. But effectively, like, yeah, with Peoria, we had a great engineering team. Our sales team was actually quite good, and it was just, and our marketing was good too. Like we had good awareness. We were doing things pretty well. It's just if the market's not there, like then, and if you're just way too early, and you know, at the time, drones were only for like really professional and really like sort of defense-ish related applications. Like now people have drones as hobbies for like filming for fun, filming their friends, you know, and just general photography. But back then it was really, the purpose of small drones was really like, you know, defense reconnaissance and like, you know, and doing little recon patrols. And so there wasn't really a real market to sell it to. Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward to today. Now you're selling these pods, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to build a sales team around that, like, or is that sales team you? Because I mean, you know, I'm listening. I'm like, to me, you seem like a really great salesperson, because like you're obviously selling this vision for the company really well.
Yeah, no,
right?
we have a good sales team. Like our parent company, Occipital. You know, the CEO of Occipital actually is, you know, acted as our really skilled executive, acted as our like effectively VP of sales.
Okay.
Just to like step into that role, because you know, my background's really engineering. And like for like specific customers, like, you know, myself and like one of the senior biz dev managers on our team would be like build like personal relationships with like key customers. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the areas like our parent company helped a lot out with, and yeah, that's kind of how we did it there. And it's, you know, it's yeah, sales organization is a whole other you know,
yeah, I mean, that's
kind of can of worms there. Yeah,
that's kind of why I was interested, was just because it seemed like you had done an excellent job for like selling your vision. So I was wondering if that responsibility had fallen on you. But it sounds,
it's interesting because it's like, I think of it as like, you know, business development, where it's more like myself and one of the senior biz dev sales managers at Paracosm, we like to go in for like the one-on-one meetings with large customers. Like if we're talking with like a, you know, like a big company with a lot of factories, or like a cool strategic partner that has a really cool idea for our product, I'll absolutely go into the meetings all the time. And like, or if it's like a really interesting customer, like a nationwide construction company or something, I'll absolutely do that meeting. But, you know, VP of sales and daily sales is kind of like it is a disciplined process where you gotta have to have a sales team trained up. You gotta have your sales materials, your sales pitch, your cold calling, your inbound pipeline. And so there's, you know, our marketing team over the years did a lot of work on building inbound pipeline and collateral for the sales team, and setting us up on trade shows and industry awareness. Like we worked with you know, sales consultants around town, and like even the selling factory in town a little bit, and like working on, you know, sales scripts and outbound calling. And then you just run the machine. Yeah. It's a lot different than building the product development engine. It's kind of like everyone needs to work together on one product, but the machinery of sales, marketing, business development, and then product engineering are all kind of different enough that they all sort of, and even manufacturing, they all sort of are their own bubble that everyone needs to work together, and our team does a great job of that, but it's also like they're all so different.
Yeah. This is really cool, man. I mean, we have to wrap it up in a minute.
Yeah.
But any last questions from you, Mike?
Yeah, so when we start talking about VR and stuff, that gets way too nebulous for me. I don't mean too nebulous in a bad way, but like it's just something that like it's like I consider myself a pretty smart person, but when you talk about that, I don't realize how much I'm not.
Yeah.
Like I'm reminded of a time that Colin and I went to Florence. We went to Florence, Italy in 2018, and one of the thoughts, I don't remember if you said it or something, but it was like, man, it'd be really cool. Here we are in like this, Renaissance rich area. If you could like walk through the streets and like see what it looked like during the Renaissance, but then
Exactly.
you're also looking at like what it's like now.
Yeah.
And so I hear you talking about like, mapping areas, downloading it, and then like maybe altering those worlds. But is that something that's becoming a reality? Are we close to that? Does it already exist and I just don't know about it? But like that's the kind of stuff that fascinates me, like being able to go to these historical spots.
Yeah.
And be able to have like a side by side of like, this is what the coffee shop is, but before it was a coffee shop back
Exactly.
in, here, this is what it was.
Yeah, that's the dream.
Cool.
Like the foundation is there. Like right now, what's keeping it from existing is like there's still a few fundamental like problems that there's a few fundamental like research problems that still need to be solved, and there's a few like engineering problems that need to be solved for it to be a reality. But like you can actually like at the same time the bones of the problem, there's enough work done that someone could make like a one-off kind of very specific experience. Like on this one street, someone could build that experience, but for it to be like a true scalable, like global scale, everyone in the world access to it, that's where we're marching towards. And there's still a few fundamental problems left to be solved for that. But like if you were to tell me like, hey, make me a demo just for this one cool street in Florence, that could be done today. It would be a little janky, but that could absolutely be done. But to do it the way everyone in the industry is imagining, it's in progress, but it's happening. It's getting there.
ETA, like what? Throw a dart and tell me.
What year can we expect this?
Are we 5 years? Are we 20 years?
Not 20.
Lifetime?
It's like my gut feeling is like it's on the horizon of. I feel like it's on like a horizon of like 5-ish years, which we'll see what that means. But yeah, it's like It's not like 20 years out, but it's like a 5-ish year horizon, I would guess. Like is
there something specific, like a specific area that you feel like is the biggest like holdback?
No, it's just like a little bit of everything needs to be figured out still. Like a little more like processing power, like 5G network speeds, a little better like headset. There's a few like computer vision problems that still need to be solved, and they all those things that need to happen are already in a good place. They just kind of need to be solved into like out of like a research lab into the real world is what I think these final years are going to be, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That's cool.
So well, hopefully we'll have some cool updates on this exact question. Maybe I can talk more in a year or two on it.
Dude, it'd be cool. That's what's gonna be super fun about this, is doing the follow-ups.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking, man, like should have invested years ago.
It's always what you're
I know that we said we're joking around that the investors are still, anxiously waiting. But it's like, to me, it's like, man, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be a great payout for them one day. I'm super proud of you, man. This is super cool, and to be able to say a company like this, spawned from Gainesville, and you guys are right downtown, got that team there working.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool, man. So, so congratulations. I mean, so I gotta ask. I mean, did you ever think that $200,000 of pulling that out of savings, did you ever think you'd be right here today when you did that?
No. I didn't even really know what would happen. I just felt like this was really important to do.
That's cool, man. I'm excited to see where this ends up.
Absolutely.
This is gonna be really fun to keep track of. We got to wrap up. I actually have other stuff that I wanted to dive into, so I'm going to change up the side hustle a little bit because what a lot of people don't know is that. So you had COVID-19.
Yeah. It sucked.
It sucked.
The worst. Yeah.
And so if you haven't seen the side hustle, which is our little preview to this episode, go back and look because I'm going to ask them about that in the side hustle and dive into a little bit of that. Just super interested on your take on it and that kind of stuff. So definitely go back and check that out. And where can our audience kind of keep up with this project and everything that you got going on?
Yeah.
Is there a place to get updates? Like what? Where can they visit?
They can combination of. I'm not really active on. I have a Twitter account at Amir Rubin. I don't really tweet though, but we have our website is paracosm.io. Our parent company is occipital.com. And or maybe it's occipital.io. I need to check. But between like our social media pages, and just maybe some general like tech world news, people will be able to follow some of our next steps. But the Paracosm 3D at Paracosm 3D is our Twitter account. So you follow Paracosm and myself on like Twitter, LinkedIn, and we post updates on all of our latest adventures there.
It still feels very kind of behind the scenes,
right? Yeah,
like top secret stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We'll make some better announcements soon.
That's cool, man.
Or anything leaking out,
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. Well, thanks again for coming on our show, man.
Absolutely.
This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I really, really enjoyed it. World, thanks for listening. I would say definitely like leave us a review. Don't forget to you can now ask Alexa to play WHOA podcast, and she will do so. You have to say WHOA podcast. When we created the name of this podcast, we weren't thinking about how Alexa would respond to certain things. so just know that. And and of course, like go to our website, whoagnv.com. If you want to connect with any of the sponsors or any of the people that support our show, see the calendar, that kind of thing, it's all right there. We have links to the sponsors. We have the swag t-shirts on there, everything, guys. So definitely connect with all of them there and our shop and everything. And that's it, guys. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. Give us your best whoa.
Whoa.
We'll see you later. Bye.